Hey guys, Stephen Cox here, and today I've got the wrong instrument. Well, actually, we're going to learn how to play along with a guitar player, so that's why I've got the guitar today. But if you like videos like these, please hit subscribe below, consider becoming a patron for tabs for this video and others, and let's go ahead and jump into it. So if we want to play along with a guitar player, the first thing we've got to do is know a little bit about the guitar. One thing that really helps us as bass players is that the thickest four strings on a guitar is tuned the same, only an octave higher than the bass. This means they have the same letter names, even though they're an octave higher. So the thickest string is E, the next one's A, D, and G. And so those are the ones with the same names as the bass strings. And then we have a B and an E string that we won't worry about. Yes, there are two E strings. We're going to only focus on the thick E string. Okay, so now that we know that, we're going to talk about some guitar chords. Now, guitar players typically play more than one note at the same time. If they're an acoustic guitar player being unaccompanied, or they might play those chord shapes with some finger picking stuff, but the notes ring out so that there's more than one note ringing out at the same time, creating a chord. So we're going to learn the G chord, the C chord, the F chord, the E major chord, and all these are major chords, by the way, the A chord, and the D chord. So we're only doing major chords today. If a guitar player plays a G, you can kind of see, if I turn it at this angle, that the middle finger is playing the third fret on the E string, and then the pointer finger is playing the second fret on the A string, and then there's a few open strings in the middle, and then my ring finger is actually getting the third fret on the little tiny E string. Now, only one of these notes is really relevant to us, and that is whatever the lowest pitched note is. If we're on the thickest string, we're probably playing the lowest pitched note on that string. So the middle finger is getting the third fret on the E string, and that's the lowest note of the chord. If you hear, all of the other notes are going up in pitch from there. So we could play the third fret on our E string on the U bass to match that. The third fret on the E string is a G note, and this is a G chord, so it's perfect to play that G note with this chord. Up next, we've got the C chord, and it looks like this. It almost looks like a staircase going down. It sounds like that. My pinky's not doing anything, it's just floating. I know it's hard to tell. But first thing we want to look at is, are there any notes on the E string in this chord? We're not really playing the E string in this chord. So if you look at guitar players, they'll usually play from the A string down on a C chord. Okay, so if we have that C chord right there, what is the lowest note? We know we have no notes on the E string, so we go to our A string, and it looks like we've got our ring finger playing the third fret on the A string. So that third fret on the A string is a C note, and this is a C chord, so we can also play the third fret on the A string on our basses, on our U basses. All right, and so then after that, we've got an F chord. It's another little staircase looking shape. I know I'm really contorting my finger to do it, but basically it's just another little staircase shape, but it's one string down from the C chord for the lowest note. So basically we're not playing the E string or the A string on this one, but then we've got the third fret on the D string as our lowest note. So that's an F note. You can either play the third fret on the D string there, or if you want to keep it low, since we're bass players, we like playing the low notes, you can play the first fret on the E string, which is an octave down from that other F. So either one of those is fine. But let's play the first fret on the E string just to give it that really low end when we play along with the guitar. Okay. So those are the three chords we're going to go over right now. So basically I'm going to mix them up a little bit and play a pattern on the guitar. And what I want you to do is play half notes along with this. So this means if your count is 1, 2, 3, 4, you're going to play 1, 2, 3, 4 over a G chord. So that's literally, I was playing a G note. Only we're going to do that on U bass. So that was the third fret on the E string yet again. And one thing about these chords, I want you to memorize these different shapes, because these different shapes take a little bit of effort for the guitar player to get to. so you can kind of see where they're going before they get there, and then they think you're mind reading, but you're not. You're actually just watching where their hands are going and maybe using your ear if you've developed some ear training. What I mean by this is, like, if I'm going to the G chord, you might notice that my middle finger is going to come up a little bit more than the other ones before I get there. And then if I'm going to the D chord, you might notice that my hand starts to form that shape before it gets to the notes. So most guitar players do this. Most of them don't shift so fast that it's impossible to catch what it is, and you might be able to catch it before the downbeat and play the note on time. Okay? So we're going to start with that chord, but then it'll change from there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so now we're going to learn 3 more chords. This is going to be the E chord, the A chord, and the D chord. Now these are slightly different from the other 3 chords because they do use open strings as the lowest note. So you really want to recognize these shapes that a guitar player is doing so that you know if they're playing the E chord, the A chord, or the D chord. So the E chord looks like this. It's not a staircase shape. It's not similar to really those other shapes. We've got our middle finger on the 2nd fret on the A string. The ring finger is underneath that on the 2nd fret of the D string. And then our pointer finger is on the 1st fret of the G string. Okay, so it ends up looking like that shape. And then when you play this chord, you play all the strings. So we end up playing an open E string, even though we're not pushing anything down on it. So that means E is our lowest note. If you see that shape, play the open E string, or if you wanted to bring it up an octave, which we like keeping it down the octave, but you could play the 2nd fret on the D string instead. Both of those are E's. All right, so that's what we'll do for the E chord. Here's the A chord now. So the A chord, it's kind of hard to see because I have bass player fingers instead of guitar player fingers, so not really thin enough. But I'm pushing down the 2nd fret on the D string, the G string, and this B string that we don't have on our basses. So on this one, you notice the E and the A string aren't being pushed down with the left hand. However, I am going to play the A string when I play this shape. I'm not playing the low E string, so we're skipping over the E, but if you see this shape, we are going to play the open A string, and it's an A chord, so we'll play the open A string or the 5th fret on the E string. Either one of those is the same note. So we can play either one of those with it. Okay? And then last but not least, we have the D. And then last but not least, we have the D major chord. And once again, all of these are major chords. G major, C major, F major. If you see a chord symbol where it doesn't have anything after it, you just assume that it's major. Okay. So then we've got our E major chord, A major chord, and our D major chord. So our D major chord's kind of interesting. As you can tell, the lowest note I'm pushing down on is actually on the G string. So if you hear a full sound, but it looks like I'm only playing the thinner strings over here, then there's probably an open string above it. So this happens to be the open D string on this one. So if you see this shape, skip over E and A and just go ahead and play D, because this is a D chord. So that'll be our open D string, or if you wanted to, you could do 5th fret on the A string. So they're the same note. Okay. So now that we've got that, we're going to do the same thing we did with the first chords with these chords. So I'm going to start on an E major chord, so you don't have to guess on that one. And then I'm going to play the other 2 chords in a pattern with it as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now let's do one more play along, And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up all the chords, and I may not throw every single one in there, but I'm going to throw most of them in there. 1, 2, 3, 4. The goal here is learn a little bit of guitar. Even if you just understand the patterns visually, it can help you. But I highly encourage you guys to learn how to play some guitar. You can look on YouTube for how to play these simple chords. And then that way, you'll recognize the shapes even more because you know how to play them. And you'll know exactly what to do on bass to play along with them. This has gotten me through several gigs where a lot of times the band leader will forget to send some songs to you. Maybe they'll send you a partial set list. And then when you get there, they play some songs that you haven't heard before, and you have to just look over at their guitar playing to figure it out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed playing along with the guitar a little bit and trying to figure out how to mind read. If you like videos like these, once again, subscribe to the channel for more and consider becoming a patron. I'll see you guys next Tuesday.